Hello and welcome to Mad About Superheroes Cartoon Showcase. Thanks for joining me in my quest to bring meaning back to Saturday mornings. The way I achieve a temporary state of zen is to take a nostalgia trip to the way back when. Today we're going to revisit a personal favorite episode of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon series, Enter the Punisher. Co-written by John Semper and Carl Potts. Besides writing many episodes of Spider-Man, Semper went on to write a few episodes of the 90s Incredible Hulk cartoon series, including the episode Mind Over Antimatter, which guest starred Dr. Strange.
Nice catch, Dr. Bizarre.
Strange.
Totally.
Potts was a writer-artist for Marvel Comics prior to writing duties on Spider-Man the Animated Series. He wrote and provided layouts for early issues of Punisher War Journal, with Jim Lee providing finished art. The 1994 Spider-Man animated series is based on the Marvel Comics of the same name, which was famously created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. For anyone that needs a refresher, Peter Parker is bitten by a radioactive spider and gains spider-esque powers. Peter refuses to stop a criminal who then later kills his Uncle Ben, which sets him on the path to becoming a superhero crime fighter. As the Amazing Spider-Man, Peter fights against various supervillains such as Dr. Octopus, the Hobgoblin, the Vulture, Scorpion, Venom, and the Green Goblin. Though regarded as one of the best, if not the best, Spidey cartoons, the 90s animated series wasn't the first or the last animated venture based on the web-slinger. The 1960s Spider-Man cartoon is mostly remembered for its catchy theme song.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
The 1980s had two adjacent Spidey-based cartoons, one simply titled Spider-Man, and the other, my personal favorite, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Many episodes of Spider-Man the Animated Series were loosely based on stories originating in the Marvel Comics. For example, the Season 2 episode, The Mutant Agenda, and Mutant's Revenge, were based on a 3-issue miniseries titled Spider-Man Mutant Agenda. The Season 5 3-parter, Secret Wars, is based on the 80s comic series, Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars, which was a 12-issue miniseries that had its very own toy line.
Dr. Doom and Spider-Man from the Marvel Secret Wars collection. Other figures each sold separately. From Mattel.
Spider-Man the Animated Series featured many guest appearances, including but not limited to the Man Without Fear, Daredevil, the Sorcerer Supreme, Dr. Strange, the Vampire Hunter, Blade, War Machine, and of course, the battle-hardened vigilante, the Punisher. A rich heiress is being held for ransom by some low-level thugs in a warehouse, but it's not Spider-Man that comes to her rescue. It's the rage-fueled, vengeful one-man army known as the Punisher.
Who the heck is that?
Just waste them!
Her kidnappers are no match for the former soldier turned vigilante.
I give up!
And then what? Get some Weasley lawyer? Spend a year or two in prison and then you're back on the streets again?
Help me! Please, somebody help me!
On his way back to his home base, the Punisher is contacted by his partner, Micro, informing him of their next target.
I'll make dog meat out of him.
As if Spider-Man didn't have enough problems, old Webhead has been blamed for the disappearance of Michael Morbius, who's used Spidey's blood to turn himself into a living vampire. Meanwhile, Peter is mutating into a 6-armed man-spider. Peter seeks the aid of Dr. Mariah Crawford in hopes of finding a cure for his ailment, which leads to a confrontation with Morbius. Eventually, the Punisher gets in on the action. The Punisher is really gunning for Spidey due to the bad press he's received courtesy of the Daily Bugle's editor-in-chief, J. Jonah Jameson. The Punisher is really gumming up the works, too.
Who are you?
I punish those who prey on the innocent.
Luckily, this isn't the wall crawler's first rodeo. Spidey breaks free and escapes the clutches of the Punisher.
This isn't the end, wall crawler.
The stress of the ordeal causes Spider-Man to briefly consider throwing in the towel, but he remembers the tragedy that led him on his path to crime fighting and helping those in need. Spider-Man is determined to help Morbius, but the Punisher intervenes once more. During their second encounter, Peter fully mutates. Now more spider than man, the hunted becomes the hunter. And the Punisher, caught in man-spider's web, is lucky to escape with his life.
Open door!
Dr. Crawford contacts an old foe of Spider-Man's turned ally for help, Kraven the Hunter. As he roams the New York City streets scaring any who cross his path, Man-Spider isn't hard to track down, and the Punisher is up and at him for a rematch, blocking the creature's spitting venom with a shield and counterattacking our former hero once again with his glue gun. The Punisher shows no mercy. He has no attachment to Peter Parker, the man hidden inside the monster. Just when the Punisher thinks he's defeated Man-Spider, once again the Hunter becomes the hunted.
I don't know who you are, but you just made a big mistake.
But after a brief struggle with Kraven, the Punisher regains the upper hand. A short time later, Man-Spider brings the fight to the Punisher, and he's captured, mummified in webbing. In the end, Kraven rescues the Punisher, and they team up. Dr. Crawford and Kraven set the Punisher straight by informing him that Spidey's one of the good guys. With the aid of Dr. Crawford's cure, Peter finally reverts back to our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
We're all friends here. This man helped save you.
I feel like I just woke up from a nightmare.
When you do a superhero strip, the first thing you have to think of is what superpower will he have? And I was trying to think of a new power. I mean, we already had the Thing, who was the strongest guy, and the Hulk was strong. We had a guy who could fly, the Human Torch. We had the Invisible Girl. We had everybody could do everything. Yeah. So I've told this story so often that for all I know, it might even be true, because I really don't remember exactly, but I think I was watching a fly walking on a wall. And I said, gee, wouldn't it be cool if I had a hero who could stick to walls like an insect? But I think I'm lying. I probably didn't say, wouldn't it be cool? Because I don't think the word cool was in usage. I probably said, wouldn't it be groovy? I want to be nothing but totally accurate here. At any rate, I thought, I'll get a guy who's like an insect. So I figured, okay, what kind? What'll I call him? Insect Man? That didn't sound dramatic. Mosquito Man? No, I went down the list. When I got to Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Oh, that sounded dramatic.
Much like the Sins of the Father multi-arcing storyline in Season 1, Enter the Punisher and Duel of Hunters are 2 episodes within the Neogenics Nightmare multi-arcing storyline that spanned over several Season 2 episodes. The Punisher-centric episodes do a great job of staying true to the Vigilante's comic book roots by subtly referencing the murder of his family without showing the brutality. In the Marvel Comics, decorated Marine veteran Frank Castle wages war on organized crime after his wife and children are caught in the crossfire of a mob hit. Castle becomes the vigilante known as the Punisher. Not exactly kid-friendly Saturday morning material, but limitation breeds creativity.
This is what I live for, webhead. To stop monsters like you from harming innocent lives.
The Punisher making his animated debut in the Spidey cartoons is most appropriate. The Punisher made his Marvel Comics debut in The Amazing Spider-Man number 129. The cartoon portrayal is loosely based on this issue. In both the comics and cartoon, the Punisher is misled into believing Spider-Man is a criminal, and he goes gunning for the web-slinger. The 2-part episode also drew inspiration from the first 2 issues of Marvel Fanfare, in which Spider-Man and the X-Men go to the Savage Land, and Spidey and the Angel are transformed into primordial forms by the villainous Brainchild. Good old Webhead emerges as the hideous Man-Spider. A Man-Spider-inspired character can be seen in both the 1980 Spider-Man and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoons. Spider-Man Adventures and Adventures of Spider-Man were both comic book series based on the 90s animated series. Web of Spider-Man artist Alex Saviuk provided pencils for both titles. Initially, Saviuk stuck to his Web of Spider-Man art style, but shortly into his run, he adapted a much more appropriate cartoon style, more in line with the animated series. Personally, I prefer Saviuk's more cartoon-inspired artwork. Spider-Man Adventures #1 featured the return of the one-man army, the Punisher. Created by writer Jerry Conway and artists John Romita Sr. and Ross Andru, the Punisher slowly gained popularity with guest appearances in other popular Marvel titles, until finally given his own monthly series in the late 80s. At the height of his success, the Punisher featured in multiple subtitles, as well as a continuous stream of guest appearances in other Marvel comic books. The hyperviolence of action movies of the era are an obvious influence on the Punisher comics, as most action heroes on the big screen became more and more violent, and 9 times out of 10 never failed to pull the trigger. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, no cartoon series is truly complete without a toy line, and Spider-Man had a great couple of waves produced by Toy Biz, until things went out of control, with wacky armor and goofy vehicles that never appear in the cartoon or the comics. Well, for the most part anyway. Spider-Man has an amazing theme song, credited to a number of composers, but most noteworthy is Shuki Levy, who contributed his talents to so many 80s and 90s cartoon themes, it'd be too hard to name them all. Power Rangers and the X-Men are a couple of awesome examples. The rocking guitar solo to Spidey's theme was contributed by Joe Perry of Aerosmith. Interesting bit of trivia, Aerosmith provided a cover of the 1960 Spider-Man theme for the soundtrack to the 2002 Spider-Man film directed by Sam Raimi. Spider-Man has a spectacular cast of voice actors. Christopher Daniel Barnes as Peter Parker Spider-Man. Barnes acts in front of the camera as well. Prior to Spider-Man, he co-starred on the short-lived sci-fi TV series Starman, which was based on the 80s film of the same name. John Beck as Frank Castle, the Punisher. Beck is a working actor who had guest roles on Baywatch, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Walker, Texas Ranger. Nick Jameson as Michael Morbius. Jameson pulled double duty on Spider-Man, also providing the voice of Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. Greg Berger as Sergei Kravinoff, Kraven the Hunter. Berger also provided the voice of the Spidey villain Mysterio.
It was the crook from the arena. The one I should have stopped, but I didn't. I had the power and I didn't use it. I lost my uncle because I ignored my responsibilities. He always used to tell me, with great power
comes great responsibility.
Avi Arad produced many of the 90s Marvel cartoons, including Spider-Man. Arad went on to serve as producer on many of the early Marvel movies. The success of the Spider-Man and X-Men cartoons on the small screen paved the way for their big screen success in live action.
This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Some of my earliest comic collecting memories are of buying Marvel Tales featuring Spider-Man, which were reprints of early Amazing Spider-Man comics. My favorite Marvel Tales issue is hands down the reprint of the Punisher's first appearance. In the late 80s, the Marvel Comics series Punisher War Journal made its debut, and I was all in. As mentioned, Carl Potts wrote several issues of Punisher War Journal, and he co-wrote the Punisher's first appearance in Spider-Man the Animated Series. Although the cartoon Punisher can't be 100% true to his comic book counterpart and use realistic guns or be overly violent, his characterization still felt mostly in line with those early issues of Punisher War Journal written by Potts.
War Journal entry 1195.3. Spider-Man spotted at 20-30 hours.
Enter the Punisher and Duel of Hunters are definite standouts that, in my opinion, still hold up today despite limitations of children's broadcast standards. Spider-Man the Animated Series as a whole manages to tell more complex, overarching stories that all ages can enjoy.
Well, my little Calypso, you have done it again.
Calypso?
In mythology, Calypso was a goddess who offered the gift of life to Odysseus.
Well, then I guess you're my Calypso, too.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Cartoon Showcase. If you'd like to rewatch or catch up on previous episodes of Cartoon Showcase, links will be provided at the very end of the video, so please stay tuned. Thanks so much for letting your geek flags fly with Mad About Superheroes. For more episodes of Cartoon Showcase, click the playlist in the upper left-hand corner. And for more Spider-Man and Punisher content, click one of these other links. Thanks again for letting your geek flags fly with Mad About Superheroes.